Last night, we reported that top executives at CNN were offended by former DNC chair Donna Brazile's criticism of Hillary Clinton and were shaping coverage of Brazile and her book accordingly. What we told you was true was yet another example of CNN's agenda-driven approach to the news. Well, CNN executives were apparently watching last night because today they issued statements to a number of different publications denying our reporting. Never happened, they said. Okay. Let's see if CNN will deny this. Last Thursday, Donna Brazile ran a book excerpt in Politico magazine. She described how the Hillary Clinton campaign basically took over the DNC during the Democratic primaries. The next day, which was last Friday, CNN chief Jeff Zucker held a conference call with some of his senior programming staff. He had seen Brazile's Politico piece and, according to a very good source, was, quote, fuming and enraged. Brazile is a liar, he said, and suggested that CNN's news show should demonstrate that she is. At least one participant on that call described plans to have Donna Brazile on CNN. And in fact, CNN producers did try to book Donna Brazile. So far, she has not appeared on the network. That's all factual. We await CNN's denial of any of it. Donna Brazile, by the way, will appear on this show tomorrow night. Glenn Greenwald has been covering the press handling of the Brazile story over at The Intercept, and he joins us tonight. Glenn, I'm not a Democrat, so I can approach this in a pretty non-emotional way, but I'm watching people cover this story, by contrast, very emotionally, and it feels like they've got a vested interest in a certain storyline. You know much more about this than I. You wrote a great piece on this. Tell us what's going on here.
Well, they have a massive vested interest. Any of these journalists who pretend to be neutral but who are actually loyal to the Democratic National Committee and the Democratic Party as their overarching worldview, this is incredibly devastating for them. For one of their most loyal operatives, an African-American woman at the highest level of party politics for 30 years, comes out and says that the process of choosing their candidate was rigged, that there was smoking gun evidence that she discovered in the form of an agreement that gave control over the DNC to Hillary Clinton before the primary even began, and that she was horrified by what she called this internal corruption. So if you're a Democrat, how do you respond to that? It's very difficult. None of their smear tactics work against Donna Brazile. And what they decided to do was manufacture a whole series of lies about what this contract actually said and didn't say, and then fed it to their favorite journalists at MSNBC, CNN, and online, all of whom blindly endorsed these outright falsehoods. It was really shameful and extraordinary conduct on the part of these journalists.
What's so interesting, though, is you'd think of journalists as identifying instinctively with the underdog, who in this case obviously was Bernie Sanders, and yet they don't. And again, I'm looking at this from outside, but I watch them sort of dismiss Sanders, who got, 40-odd% of the vote, as this buffoon and kind of a speed bump on Hillary's rightful path to the presidency. Why do they identify with Hillary over him?
I mean, Hillary Clinton is the establishment figure in the Democratic Party, and if you identify with the Democratic Party as opposed to being a leftist or some kind of an ideologue or just somebody who wants to radically change the political culture and the political system, Hillary Clinton is going to be somebody you're going to swear your fealty to. I personally don't mind that these journalists adore Democratic Party establishment leaders. I think they have the right to have that as their cause. I think journalists ought to have opinions. But what I think is really offensive are two things. Number one, when they pretend that they don't have opinions, that they're really neutral,
Exactly.
and they conceal and therefore deceive what their true allegiances are. And then secondly, when they're willing to endorse outright factual falsehoods in order to serve their hidden political agenda. I mean, there's no worse crime that you can commit in journalism than doing that. And that's what so many of them did all week long.
That's exactly right. That's why Rachel Maddow doesn't bother me at all. I like Rachel Maddow. She's not lying to me. She says who she is. But you watch CNN and they're lying about it. It drives me insane. Glenn Greenwald, you are a brave man and a very precise one. I appreciate your coming on. Thank you.
Thanks, Tucker.
We're not done with this story. Tomorrow night, we're going to sit down with Donna Brazile herself to talk about her new book. I think it's her first appearance on cable. She's got remarkable claims in there. We have it, and we're going to have quite a conversation with her, so stay tuned.